Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. So very happy to be with you today. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Hope you had a great weekend and a great week, and that you have been doing all that you can to make each day count. After all, what's the point of life if you aren't putting forth whatever you can muster as your best effort on whatever day that might be so that you can have a full and fulfilling life? You know, I remember at one point when I was probably in my 20s getting really frustrated with other people, thinking they're not doing their best. You know, that person is slacking. This person is just not doing whatever my thought and understanding was of what that person's best might be. And I was speaking to a mental health professional who shared with me that perhaps I had the wrong understanding because, according to this man, his fundamental belief was that people really do their best, even if their best in that moment is very, very limited, even if their best is hardly getting up and taking an action at all, even when it seems impossible that whatever it is that someone is doing or not doing, that could be their best. This mental health professional challenged me and said, it probably is, Harriet. People generally do whatever they believe within themselves at that moment to be their best. People tend to do that. Even when it is at what others might consider a substandard level. By the way, even if it's what they consider to be a substandard level. Perhaps, the tank isn't full, so to speak. You know how, for those of you who drive, when your car is running out of gas, you can feel it. The car feels sluggish, it doesn't have as much get up and go. It and then when you fill the tank, it feels robust and it feels like it's gliding rather than chugging along. Even in new cars, even in luxury cars, this same feeling occurs. Well, that happens in the body too. If you don't nourish your body with the proper foods and liquids and spiritual nutrition, mental nutrition, that if you don't wholly and holistically fill your cup with the best, then often your capability is diminished. And whatever becomes your best in that moment may be very, very different from what you imagine that it would be. Does that make sense to you? It didn't make sense to me in my 20s whenever I was having this frustrating moment. And when I was challenged, it helped me to think about people with more compassion and to begin to think about responsibility in a different way. And focus, today's inspiration is about welcoming responsibility. Welcoming responsibility. I chose that carefully. It's not accepting responsibility, which somehow can feel like a burden. I accept responsibility for whatever. Welcoming responsibility. I welcome this into my life and my being. What happens when you welcome responsibility into your awareness, into your life, into your thoughts, words, and deeds? Things change when you welcome it, when it's with a smile on your face that you look at the things for which you are responsible and welcome them into your space and into your sphere so that you can address them. When you don't do that, all kinds of challenges and stumbling blocks appear on your journey. And you don't realize that by not welcoming responsibility, you actually create a lot more difficulty for yourself. But it's hard to see in the moment. When you step back and assess, what is my day call on me to do? Like this day right now, think about it. What does this day call on you to do? Do you make a list? You know, I believe in lists. Do you make a list of what your responsibilities are, of what your focal points are, of what you have promised yourself that you are going to do? Do you make a list of those things? I do. And I have to tell you something. Whenever I don't write it down, I usually don't remember. I don't think that that's because my memory is bad. I think it's because there are lots of things in my head. There's so many thoughts and tasks and objectives that if I don't write them down and organize them, I often don't remember that they need to be done at a particular time. And what happens then, I don't know if this happens for you, but for me, very often the things that I forget to record are important. And I go, oh, I forgot that. I didn't handle that. And there'll be just some small or large thing that I promised myself I was going to handle. And when I don't, who feels bad? I do. Who feels bad? The others for whom I had some engagement or with whom I had some engagement and I didn't complete it. Because it's a cycle. Generally speaking, whatever your responsibilities are, do not just affect you. Generally speaking, they affect you and others. So there's a ripple effect. If you do not welcome your responsibilities and harvest them and record them and complete them and check them off and create space for new ones. If you don't do that, usually there are others who are negatively impacted by your lack of follow through. And so taking on the attitude of welcoming responsibility can shift everything. Instead of feeling a burden, you're trudging along, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. Instead of feeling that it's a weight and a burden, you can feel that it's a beautiful thing, that you're going to approach all these things that are on your list and take care of them one by one. And so at the end of this day, you can look at that list with a smile on your face and say, I welcome these 3 things, these 5 things, this one thing, and completed it. And I feel good about that. I feel good for myself. I feel good for whatever that responsibility is. And I feel good for the relationship that it is supporting. Now, conversely, when you don't do it, what happens? You don't feel good. The others don't feel good. Something suffers. And I don't know about you, but I'm all for reducing suffering of any kind. Sometimes what suffering can look like for me, if I don't remember things and don't complete them, I wake up in the middle of the night, and it comes in my head. And then if I don't write it down in the middle of the night, I might forget again, which is the worst. Welcoming responsibility can also include having that notepad and pen or pencil by the bed, so that if you do have those aha moments, you can write it down then. You don't have to get up, you write it down in the morning, you look at that list. Thank you, Spirit, for reminding me. Even though it was in the middle of the night, not my favorite time, thank you for reminding me. I wrote it down, now I can address it. Welcome responsibility. Make it easy to handle your business. When you make it easy to handle your business, life gets so much better. I promise you. It does for me. And by the way, this is not a one and done. You don't tell yourself, I'm welcoming responsibility today, and therefore everything is set. It's an ongoing experience. And when you welcome that, you welcome the understanding that it's ongoing and that on some days you will be more adept at it than at others. And if you take care of yourself, Remember back to, how do you feed your spirit? How do you feed your body? How do you take care of yourself? If you take care of yourself, you make it easier for you to accomplish the things that you're welcoming. If you take care of yourself, you organize the responsibilities. So, and you break them down into manageable tasks so that you can complete them. When you have a huge task, what a colleague of mine calls a big boulder, when you have a big boulder, it's okay to notice the big boulder, but in order to get around, through, even next to the big boulder to take an action, you usually need to break the big boulder down into smaller rocks. My thinking that if you take the approach that you need to examine the huge challenge, the huge responsibility, and figure out what are 10 steps, 20 steps, 5 steps that you can take in order to tackle what's before you, chances are you will be more successful. You know, astronauts didn't go to the moon simply because they said they wanted to. How much science and technology and years of research and trial and error and dollars went into figuring it out. So similarly, you may not be a rocket scientist. Isn't that what people say? You're not a rocket scientist, but you are the governor of your life. And if you take the approach that you welcome whatever the challenges are, whatever the responsibilities are, whatever the opportunities are, you welcome them and figure out how to embrace them and fulfill them, your world is going to be sweeter. It's just true. And don't you want your world to be sweeter? I sure want mine always to have that, the sweetness of fulfillment and contentment. And I believe those things come when you're taking care of business. So here is a quote. You know, I like to find these quotes. This is from Eckhart Tolle. Listen, this is a really good one. Wherever you are, be there totally. If you find yourself here, if you find your here and now intolerable, if you find your here and now intolerable and it makes you unhappy, you have three options. Remove yourself from the situation, change it, or accept it totally. If you want to take responsibility for your life, you must choose one of those three options, and you must choose now. Then accept the consequences. All right, there was a lot in there. Let me read this to you again. Eckhart Tolle says, wherever you are, be there totally. Wherever you are, be there totally. If you find your here and now intolerable and it makes you unhappy, you have three options. Remove yourself from the situation, change it, or accept it totally. If you want to take responsibility for your life, you must choose one of those three options and you must choose now. Then accept the consequences. Isn't that? I mean, there's so much in there to unpack. So let's do that. Think about this. Wherever you are, be there totally. Can you right now tell yourself that wherever you are right now, you are there totally? Can you? There's so many ways to look at that. You could be talking about your physical space. You could be talking about your mind. How many people believe that it is important to be able to multitask? How many of you right now are doing more than one thing right this minute? Like, how many of you are looking at your device, typing something and halfway listening? How many and being grateful that you can, so that you have this moment when you can engage with Dreamleapers Inspiration, but you have something else to do? How many of you are multitasking? How many of you are sitting here now and thinking, oh, on a deeper level, this is not where I want to be. I'm not happy with my life. I'm not happy with my circumstances. I'm not happy with my job. I'm not happy with my home life. I'm not happy with my friends. I'm not happy with my partner, with my children, with my neighbors, with my pets, whatever. How many of you feel some kind of way about the state that you are in right now? How many of you have said countless times, I want out? Have you said that? Have you said, I want out of something, whatever it is? Again, it could be where you live, it could be your job, it could be your relationship, it could be your volunteer activities, your friendships, whatever. How many of you have said, I want out, and you haven't done anything about it other than potentially complain? Complain out loud to anybody who will listen, complain internally to yourself, point the finger, point the finger, point the finger. Something I talk about often. When you find yourself pointing your finger at others, blaming someone else for something that is disturbing you, this is the responsibility. Wrestle that finger around, point it at yourself, and ask yourself, how did I get here? What is my responsibility in this moment? What did I do to make this happen? Not, it's your fault. You didn't do this, you did that. It's because of you that I'm in the state. Not that. It's real easy to point the finger. I am saying, turn it around, point it at yourself, and ask yourself, how did I get here? And what can I do to get out of this situation if it is no longer serving me? This is what Eckhart Tolle is saying. Wherever you are, be there totally. And if you find your here and now intolerable, you cannot stand it, you can't tolerate it one more second, and it makes you unhappy, you have three options. Okay, so anybody, is there something in your world right now that here and now, right now, that you feel is intolerable? You cannot tolerate it anymore. If you tell the truth, many people who are connected right now feel that something is intolerable in their lives. And many people are complaining, but not accepting, welcoming responsibility to do something about it. Eckhart Tolle says, if you find yourself that in your hearing now, that is intolerable, here are your three choices. Remove yourself from the situation. Remove yourself from the situation. Get up and move. Get up and go. Change your circumstances. How many of you are not breathing right now? I can't do that. If I change this, what'll happen? I I don't think I can take care of myself on my own. I don't what do I do if I don't like my job and I quit my job? How can I be able to live and take care of my life? If I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, what happens? How do I stand independently if I've been in a situation for so long? How do I extricate myself from a situation that feels like it has so many tentacles? What you have to do is ask yourself those questions. Don't run away from the questions. Ask yourself the questions and figure out the answers. He says, remove yourself from the situation. Number one, change it. Okay, if you're not going to remove yourself, what are you going to do? Rather than sitting and stewing and just depleting yourself of joy, change it. How can you change it? What can you do to change it? Rather than pointing your finger, What can you do to change your situation, to make it better so that you can be happy? Do you think you deserve to be happy? See, that's a part of the question. Do you think that you deserve to be happy? If you do, what do you think will make you happy? What can you do to welcome happiness? And the third, accept it totally. Now, you just said it was intolerable. You just said this, whatever the situation is intolerable. Eckhart Tolle says remove yourself from the situation, change it, or accept it totally. Okay, so that means if you are unwilling to remove yourself from the situation, if you cannot figure out or do not want to change it, then what's left? Accept it totally. Because otherwise, you stay in purgatory. You're mad, you're upset, you're creating a lot of negative energy, which is only ensuring that you and those around you will remain unhappy. So accept it totally. Welcome the situation that you once said was intolerable. Accept it. Change the lens through which you look at your life and say, okay, this is my life. I welcome it. I accept it. I'm going to smile and make the best of it. What happens then? You actually sweeten your life. Because instead of looking with the most critical eye, you're looking with a loving eye. I accept the path that I'm on. I accept this journey. And Eckhart Tolle says, then accept the consequences of whatever it is. The consequences of removing yourself from a situation, and then you get into another situation. Changing it so that you hopefully improve it, or accepting it totally. Very simple, direct choices. And the idea is that you make these choices now. What can you do now if there's something in your life that's intolerable? What can you do now to change that? I think this is so powerful. And to me, it is about this notion of welcoming responsibility. Being responsible for yourself means you understand that you have the power to make a conscious choice that is going to direct your steps. Not somebody else. It's not somebody else's responsibility, it's yours. And when you welcome that, you embrace it, then you realize that you have power and agency in this moment. And the power can be remove yourself from the situation. The power can be change what you don't like. The power can be change your attitude and accept where you are totally, lovingly, with a big smile and an open heart, rather than continuing to complain and wallow in misery and create misery for others. I, I want you to think about this seriously, because this notion of welcoming responsibility for yourself, for your thoughts, words, and deeds is one of the most powerful things that you can contemplate. Many of us believe that other people have much more power over us than they actually do. Many of us believe that. Many of us believe that we are stuck in something. And then I hear these stories of people who, like a wonderful woman whom I interviewed recently, I don't even know whether she felt stuck. She had a job that was okay. And then she was inspired to do something different. She left her job and followed her passion. And in so doing and trusting that what her heart was telling her she needed to follow, she's created a whole new career for herself. There was a moment when she wasn't sure what would happen, but she trusted that that she had the capability to get another job if this passion didn't work out, so that she wasn't reckless or irresponsible in her choices. She had saved money, so leaving a job didn't mean she would potentially be homeless in short order. She had made responsible choices leading up to this moment, but she did not anticipate that she was going to leave her job to pursue a dream. Yet she did. And what happened? The abundance of the universe followed her, welcomed her. Hey, here's an opportunity for us to partner together so you can have resources as you fulfill your dream. Here's an opportunity for you to take this idea international. The universe, the divine, stepped up as she stepped up. And this is what happens very often. What I learned in my spiritual practice is that there are two wings of a bird: self effort and grace. God's grace is always present, but when you put forth self effort, when you work really hard to do all that you can to fulfill what your heart and your core, your soul tell you to do, when you work hard to do all that, God smiles and grace is there, and then you fly. Then all the possibilities are there before you. So you don't have to be stuck. Who wants to be stuck? Rather than being stuck, prepare to fly. Welcome responsibility. Do whatever you have to do so that you are ready for what's next. If you find something intolerable, don't stay stuck in it. Remove yourself from the situation. Change the situation or accept it fully with a smile on your face. I know people who have been bitter in relationships, feeling like there's no possible way I can stay in this because I'm miserable. And then they couldn't figure out how they could leave the situation. Some people stayed miserable, but other people said, okay, if I want to stay here, what can I do to make it better? What attitude can I have? What attitude shift can I make? What behaviors can I reignite or ignite for the first time that could make this a sweeter experience? And wow, what happens? When your attitude changes, when your behavior changes, the behaviors and attitudes around you change. Change it or welcome it exactly as it is in a different way. You can do this. Welcome responsibility in your life right now and do an assessment. My recommendation to you for this week is to assess your life. What do you think isn't working? What makes you unhappy, uncomfortable? And what can you do about it? Engage your agency for yourself. What can you do to improve whatever is making you uncomfortable? And then do it and document it so that you can notice the small steps that you take that help you to get to the bigger opportunities. You can do it. So go on and do it now. And if you want to, let me know what they are. I look forward to it. Thank you for spending this time with me. I so appreciate you. I hope that your soul is stirring right now with all the possibilities of what can happen when you welcome responsibility. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.